I'm excited to be connecting. And, I was asked to share with you guys just the pro tips on increasing your shift average. And I know everybody who's watching this recording, who's here with us live, I'm sure I can speak for us all when I say that we all want to increase our shift average. I mean, doesn't it just make sense, to think about it in terms of like, we're already at the booth, we're already working the show, we're already spending the money to be there. Why would we not want to find ways to increase our averages at the shows? I mean, all it really does is just lead to higher profitability. So it's one of those things where it's like, it just makes sense. The thing I love about it is that, if you're using the events program as a way to, sell Cutco consistently as one of the main layers of your business, whether it's a cornerstone layer or it's just a complementary layer to what you've already got going on. What I love is that, it's in the event space where we're able to create the most number of shots, the most number of turns with customers. It's in the event space where we're able to create, the most repetitions and really get ourselves to a point where like we can really, learn the skills at the fastest pace possible. The other thing I love about it is that when we really focus on developing our event skills, it's one of those skills that is what I refer to as a trickle down skill set. So, the better I do with new customers at events, the better I do with new customers on virtual appointments, on phone calls, on, demos and things like that. The better that I learn how to do with Cutco owners at events in the booth space, the better I do at service calls and during sale promotions and working with past customers over the phones and things like that. And so I really love the event space because, the more I'm able to develop my skill sets in the different layers of in the different programs and packages of the business, the better I do overall with the rest of my business as well. And so I've worked really, really hard the last few years to really increase my skill sets and increase my shift average in a lot of different areas. I'm selling more flatware now than ever. I'm selling more knife sets now than ever, and not just homemakers or custom sets, but actual like more ultimates with steak knives, more signatures with steak knives, more homemakers with steak knives, galleys with steak knives, more family program sets, multi-set orders, more business gift orders, more cookware than ever. I mean, I think this past weekend alone, I sold over $10,000 worth of cookware at the Tulsa Home and Garden Show. And so I wanted to share with you guys just the things that I do, kind of the routine that I follow that's really helped me increase my shift average quite a bit over the last few years. So right now, my average order is consistently knocking on the door, depending on the event that I'm working, between $700 and $1,000. Yesterday, my average order was $1,500. And it's just really cool because I'm seeing a lot of big gains based on using this framework that I'm going to share with you guys here today. And so sold 37 grand just in the last 4 days at the Tulsa Home and Garden Show. Had my best Tulsa Home and Garden Show of my career. And one of those days, by the way, was a snow day. So, and even on that snow day, I still sold $7,500 on 5 orders. And so, so I just want to walk you through really the 3 steps that I've been able to use to help me increase my shift average. This is also the same steps that I teach to our coaching clients and people who mentor with us to help them do the same thing. And it's something that we've seen work not just for me, but for multiple people at different levels throughout the entire company. And so people from all over the country, people from all levels of skills, all levels of experience, Hall of Fame reps, all the way down to, people that are just selling 50, 100 grand a year and just in their first couple of years of the business. Okay. So the whole goal with today's message is to really break this down so it's very simple, because I also understand that when you're trying to increase your averages, when you're trying to really build your skill sets, it can also get a little overwhelming. You think about it, you hear like all this training. I mean, every month we have a new training topic on the team meetings, right? Then you go to a conference and you hear 10 different, messages from speakers teaching you how to sell more Cutco. And then you listen to audios and you watch videos and then you go cross training, field training. It's like next thing you know, within just a matter of a couple months, you've got 25 or 50 different things that you could be working on. And it's like, where the hell do I even start, right? And it can feel really overwhelming. It can feel like I know there's times where I get so caught up in all the things that I'm learning from attending events that even I feel overwhelmed by stuff. And I'm really freaking good. I can't imagine what it's like for somebody that's at 100 grand or 200 grand in career sales, or somebody who's only been on the events team for a campaign or two, let alone, I was talking with Matt Foss recently about it, and he's like, dude, I know I need to be working on things, but like, I just don't feel like I have a very good process or a very good routine that helps me really focus everything down so I know what the most important things are to work on. And so we had a good conversation around it. A lot of what we talked about was stuff that I'm going to talk about with you today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to share 3 steps with you. The first step, if you want to take notes, write this stuff down. Number 1 is improve your is to have, it's really 3 focuses, right? So the first thing is, step number 1 is your improvement focus. So have an improvement focus, and I'll explain what I mean by that here in a minute. The second step is to have a daily focus, like on the ground, and like boots on the ground. What do you do every day when you're actually working? What do you focus on there? And then the third thing is to have a reflection focus. So it's kind of like pre-event, pre-shift focus, right? During shift focus, and then post-shift focus. And remember, the whole goal here, right, is to improve or increase our shift average. So I'm going to walk you through my routine for how I actually do that. So let's start with the improvement focus. So the first step really is just to, decide what to focus on. And so, like I mentioned earlier, there's 50 different things you could be improving at any given time. And what I have found is that less is more. The less I focus on, actually, the better I do, the more that I make. And so when I'm trying to improve, there's, because of the nature of our business and the personal development focus and the fact that we're always teaching and training, and that, everybody needs something different at any given time, there's always an entire menu or myriad of things that are being taught at any given moment, and a myriad of things that we could be choosing to learn and choosing to improve on, right? And so the reason that that exists is because it's kind of like going to a restaurant, right? If you went to a restaurant where they only had one dish, they had one appetizer, one entree, one dessert, it wouldn't be satisfactory to all people or most people. Am I right? So what does a restaurant have to do to be successful? Well, they have to create a menu of multiple different appetizers, multiple different entrees, multiple different types of desserts to cater to and appease to different types of people based on what they're feeling in the moment, based on what they need most or what they want most, based on their allergies or their preferences, right? And so we can do the same thing in Cutco. So what do, right? We look at a menu when we're at a restaurant and we decide, what do I want to eat today? What don't I want to eat today? And as a result, then we get what is most exciting for us. And then we have a great meal, right? Imagine if you just kind of blindfolded yourself and just like stuck your finger at something, and that it comes to your table, you don't even know what it's going to be, and it ends up being something that you're completely allergic to, or something that you completely hate, or something that is way too big and overfilling for you, or it's not enough and now you leave the restaurant hungry. That would not be a good experience, right? And so when, and think about too, like if you ordered 3 appetizers and 4 entrees and 4 desserts, you might be satiated at the end, but also, you're going to be super stuffed and super full, and you're going to feel like you wasted a bunch of money and you wasted a bunch of food, and that doesn't feel good either. And so the whole idea that we want to do here is we really want to narrow that focus down so that we can have that perfect meal. So we know exactly what the entree needs to be for us when we're trying to increase our averages, what we're trying to increase, like improve our skill sets. Sorry, words are hard for me today. And then also, like focus down to like, what is that best entree? What is that best possible dessert that we could have right now in our business? And so decide what to focus on. That's the very first thing. So how do you do that, right? I know you guys are all sitting there thinking to yourselves like, okay, Josh, I get it. I know I need to narrow my focus, but how do I do that? Well, I do what's called a critical skill sets assessment. So I'm going to give you a list of things to write down right now. And what I recommend is that you rank these things from top to bottom. The things you're best at would be number 1. And the things that you're not best at would be, at the bottom of the list. So let's say there's, 10 things on this list. Assign a rank to each one of these things and rank them from 1 to 10, 1 being what you're best at, 10 being what you're worst at. So start with your critical skills assessment. So assess yourself. How are you doing in these areas? So closing sets, that's the first thing, right? How good are you at closing sets at the booth? So this, and by the way, this can be any of the sets. So break it down to the individual sets. How good are you with ultimates? How good are you with signatures? How good are you with homemakers? How good are you with galleys? How good are you with 5 pieces? How good are you with 5 pieces with steak knives, 5 pieces with table knives? How good are you at 5 pieces with 4 versus 8 on steak or table? Right? How good are you at the precision set? There's so many different ways that you could go with this, but the real question you got to ask is how good are you at selling all of the different sets at the booth. So for me recently, Ultimates has been the focus because I've been really good with galleys, really good with homemakers, but I've been really crap with Ultimates. So for the past 2 years, I've been working on developing, improving my shift average through focusing on Ultimate sets. And here's the great thing, by just taking that one focus, right? I'm selling more Ultimates now than ever before, an average of at least one a day. And think about this, like taking one set order from say $1,000 to $3,000, right? That's a $2,000 gain just by switching the focus of my skill sets, just by getting better at closing Ultimates. If I can just sell one Ultimate a day more, that's an extra $2,000 in my bottom line every day. And if I only get 4 orders that day, that's an improvement of $500 per average order. If I get 10 orders that day, that increases my average order by $200, right? If I get 15 orders in a day, it's way more likely I'm going to close 2 Ultimates that day, not just 1 Ultimate that day. And now my average order is going up even more. And so, just that one thing, by narrowing the focus and really getting it down, that can make a huge difference in your actual averages. And you don't have to do that much work. You just have to get better at closing that one thing more consistently and more regularly, right? So another skill set area. So there's closing knife sets, right? Then the other one is upgrades. So how good are you at the full complete upgrade? How good are you at the kitchen upgrade? How good are you at cookware upgrades, flatware upgrades? How good are you at the builder upgrade with knife sets? How good are you at all the different types of upgrades and ways that people could upgrade? Now, that may feel overwhelming, right? You're like, holy shit, Josh, you just gave me like 7 different knife sets and 5 different types of upgrades. Like, where do I start? Just pick one, right? If you're not selling Ultimate upgrades consistently in the booth right now with cup owners, then that's probably the place that you want to start, right? If you're not selling a lot of homemakers or signatures at the booth with new customers, then that's probably the place you want to start. Heck, if it was me, I would start with Ultimates, right? Because I'm selling more signatures because I got better at Ultimates, right? And I'm selling more homemakers because I got better at Ultimates. So, because when you drop from, $13,000 for a kitchen to $3,900 for an Ultimate to $1,600 for a homemaker, $1,600 doesn't feel like much. So it's a really easy yes for a lot of people. When you go from that to $1,000 for a galley, they're like, I could do that. Anybody can do that. I'm like, I know, right? Exactly. That's why everybody does it. So, but how good are you at all of these areas? Also, flatware, another critical skill set. Cookware, another critical skill set. Accessory packages. And by the way, when I speak of packages, I'm speaking in terms of $1,000 plus packages, just so you know, because that's my focus. I'm always focused on how good am I doing at presenting, positioning, and closing $1,000 plus packages, because that's where we want to be, right? It's way easier to sell a gadget pack for $400 after you've shown them the $1,200 full complete accessory pack. So complete accessory packages, outdoor packages, how good are you at that? How good are you at promoting the family program, or just talking about gifting programs for the family? So selling multiples, gift sets, knife sets, things like that. Brian's got some really tremendous, so much tremendous training out there on the family program and how he's been consistently selling multiples in the booth environment and also outside the booth environment as a result of working on that skill set in the booth. So, are you consuming that content yet? Business gifts, that's another great layer that you want to assess your skills on. But that's been Brian Carter's focus for the past year. And in case you haven't noticed, Brian's posting more now than ever before. I've known him for almost 20 years. We've been working together for almost 20 years. And he's posted more in the last year about his business gift sales and success than he has in the 19 years previous to that I've known him combined, right? And why is that? Well, that's because Brian got super focused by determining, like doing a skills assessment like this, and then deciding that business gifts was going to be the next big needle mover for him. And that was going to be the 2021 focus. And look, where focus goes, energy flows, right? So write that down. Where focus goes, energy flows. So the first step is really improvement focus, right? Decide what to focus on. Make a list of all of these things, and then make a commitment to work on 1 or 2 of these things this year. So I just gave you 20 different things you could be working on. What you want to do is rank those things 1 through 10 or 1 through 20 or however many are on your list. Rank them from 1 all the way through to the bottom. And 1 is the thing that you're the best at, the thing you do most consistently, you're most confident with, you're most comfortable with. And then 2, like all the way to the very bottom would be the thing that you're the worst at, the thing that you suck at, the thing that you never show because you don't even know how to talk about it, let alone feel comfortable, confident doing that. All right. So once you've done that, right, pick something, 1 or 2 things max that are in the middle. This is what I do, right? I don't look at what I'm worst at and try to become an expert at that this year. I look at what am I average at? What am I just okay at? Like, yeah, I sell that once in a while. If I get excited about it or somebody walks up about it, I know how to present it. I know how to price it. I sell it once in a while here and there randomly, right? It's usually something that's right in the middle of that list. It's not my best. It's also not my worst, right? It's with the things in the middle that I've found that we can get the most gain the fastest. So I can take something I'm really bad at and I can get to okay with it. But if I'm sacrificing all the other things I'm good at or okay at by focusing on the thing I'm worse at, then, and I'm only getting to like average with it, well, then I'm not really getting as big of a gain as possible. I can take something I'm really great at and I can get myself better at it, but I'm only going to get incremental improvements. So I'm looking for big gains in my shift average. So how do I do that? I take the things in the middle. What are 1 or 2 things in the middle of my list where I rank things? Where I'm like, oh man, okay, if I got really great at that, that would be an extra $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a day at the booth. That could be a really huge gain for me. And typically I like to pick 1 thing for Cutco owners, 1 thing for new customers. And guys, I do this ranking with my skill sets every 6 months. Because what's interesting is that based on what I'm working on, based on what I'm improving, based on the areas that I'm focusing, the rank for things can change. It can shift over time. And so, the things that are the worst on the list sometimes become the things in the middle of the list by the end of the year. The things that are in the middle of the list sometimes become the things that are the best on the list by the end of the year. Sometimes the things at the top of the list actually drop down a little bit because I get so good at something different or something new, I lose focus on some other things. And so it's just good to go through this assessment with yourself at least once a year. I recommend twice a year just to keep tabs on where you're at, how things are going so far, right? And you'll also be able to identify places where you were good once and then lost focus. I've had to do that multiple times. I used to be great at flatware. I was like the guy when it came to flatware when it first came out. And then, a bunch of people got better than me, approaches improved, like I got focused on other things. And eventually flatware drifted down the list where I was like, holy crap, I only sold 4 flatware chests last year, the whole freaking year out of all the orders I had, what the hell's wrong? So I went back and realized that was low on the list, kind of towards the bottom of the middle. And I brought that bitch back up to where now it's one of my top things that I sell on a regular basis. I'm consistently in the top 5 every year in flatware sales, even though I don't work as much as people who are ahead of me on that list. So you can change anything in a moment's notice by just getting clarity and making it a focus. So what do you do after that? Well, you make a commitment, right? Commit to work on whatever those 1 or 2 things are that you're picking off the list for a year. And this is a mistake I see a lot of people make. I see a lot of people commit to working on something for a show or for a month, and they get out there and they do okay with it and they get some results and then they shift their focus to something different. I think what puts me ahead of other people and the reason I'm able to build critical skills at a deep level to where they're almost like muscle memory for me and on autopilot is because I make a commitment for a year or more, right? I've been working on Ultimates, you heard me mention earlier, for 2 years, guys. 2 years I've been making it a thing. And I've gotten way better. I'm selling way more Ultimates now than I ever have in my entire career. And part of the reason is because I haven't quit focusing on it. And I'm not going to quit focusing on it until I get the results that I want. So get clear on what you're working on, right? What results do you want to see? So if you're going through that list, right, and you've ranked everything 1 to 20, and you've already identified, Jeff, for example, like what are your 1 or 2 skill sets that you want to work on? What are the 1 or 2 improvement areas that you want to be, what you want to be your focus? Circle those things and ask yourself, well, what are the results you want to see? So for me, right, I got to a point with flatware where I was like, all right, the result I want to see with flatware, when this became my focus a few years ago, Brian tells the story, you probably heard him tell it. When basically what I decided was, okay, flatware, I've really dropped the ball on. I need to increase my skill sets in that area, because that's going to raise my shift average quite a bit, and it's going to make me better across the board. So that's going to become the focus, and that's something I can do with new customers and Cutco owners. So what do I need to do? What do I want to create? Right? Well, what can be measured can also be managed. And so SMART goals are goals that are specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, which means important to you, and they're time bound. So I basically said, okay, I want to get to a point where within the next year, I'm selling an average of 1 flatware chest per shift that I work. So it's a very clear result I'm looking to see or looking to create. Well, so once you get clear on that, right? Let's say you just want to sell an ultimate a week or an ultimate a month, right? Or there was a time where I was like, I want to develop my 10K days, like my ability to create 10K days at the booth. And there was a time where I was like, well, I want 10K a day to be something I do once a month. I want to have a 10K day once a month. If I do that 12 times a year, then I'm going to sell 120 grand just on those 12 days. That's freaking awesome, right? Well, now guys, I'm at the point where I'm consistently having 10K days, all because I made that one focus a focus. So, and I'm not saying that to brag, I'm just saying that to impress upon you how once you get good at one thing, you can stack things on top of each other that then make you better and better and better and better. So make a commitment, get really clear on what you're working on, right? What are the results that you want to see? And then you just have to answer this question. Who do you listen to, right? Who do you listen to? Well, it's easy to answer this question when you get clear on the 1 or 2 things you're going to work on, and you get clear on the results that you want to be creating for yourself in those 1 or 2 areas. Because all you have to do is ask yourself, well, who's already getting those results? Who's already getting those results? So if you want to average 1 flatware chest a day, ask around. Hey, do you guys know anybody who sells, 10 flatware chests when they work a 10-day fair? Do you know anybody that sells 3 or 4 flatware chests every time they work a 3 or 4 day home and garden show? Find out who those people are, and then go find the resources. Go find the resources that are out there that already exist from those people that will teach you how they do it. So that's the idea, right? Amy and I refer to this as find the master, follow the model. So once you determine what it is you are working on and what results you want to get, then you can implement find the master, follow the model. Well, who's the person getting those results? What is the model that gets them those results, and how can I learn that model? Sometimes you listen to audios, sometimes you watch videos, sometimes you have to go field training or cross training, sometimes you have to hire a coach or a mentor. There's so many different ways that you can get there, right? There's a plethora, a multitude of resources available, but all that matters is that you're listening to the resources that are created by the people already getting the results that you want. So I don't take financial advice, for example, from people who suck with their finances. I don't take, nutritional advice or like weight loss advice from people who are overweight. I listen to people who already have what I'm looking for. And so I want to be a multimillionaire who has multiple streams of passive income that finance my lifestyle. So who do I listen to? I listen to people who are already in that position, getting those results. I want to be physically fit and strong and like work out 5 days a week. So who do I listen to? I listen to people who are already strong and physically fit and work out 5 days a week or more, right? Those are the people I get my guidance from. So you can do the same thing here in your business. If you want to be great at flatware, find out who's great at flatware, go listen to what they teach. And the great thing is the best in the business consistently teach what it is that they're doing. And if they don't, well, you can reach out to me or reach out to Amy in Vast Action and say, hey, I'm working on this skill set and I can't find any resources. Do you guys have any? Usually we have a library of information we can give you access to. Our Conversations with Champions library, for example, is free, and it has hundreds of audios and interviews and hundreds of pages of notes that I've done with people from all around the business in there. So go check that out, right? Or if we don't have that resource, then we'll go do an interview with somebody who is a pro at that, and we'll get that resource available for people. So this is all step 1, by the way, right? This is the process to implementing an improvement focus. And it's the toughest part, which is it's why I'm spending the most time on it, okay? But once you get clear on what you're working on, once you get clear on who you listen to, then it's just about staying committed. So you study those resources and you stay committed to those resources. So practice them for the year and pay attention to how things are going along the way. So it's a lot of upfront prep work, but guys, once you do the prep work on the front end, it makes everything else on the back end come faster and come easier. So let's talk about step number 2, right? What is the daily focus? So here's the idea, right? So I get really clear on my critical skills. I assess those. I pick my 1 or 2 areas. I find out, I get clear on the results I'm looking for in those areas. I find the people who are already great in getting those results, and then I go study their resources. And I study and study and study and study and study. I practice, I rehearse, I implement, I role play with people. I do all these things, right? And then I get to the booth, and now it's game time, right? And so part of improving or increasing my shift average has been about making sure I'm really intentional about what I'm focusing on during the day when I'm actually at the booth. So how do I improve my shift average there? Well, my daily focus is a game changer. It makes a difference. So number 1, have a daily order focus, not a daily CPO focus. Okay. There's a real big difference here between the two. So CPO creates a results focus. And when you're only focusing on CPO, how much you're selling, it never feels like enough. And when you get caught up in results focus, you get commission breath, and people can smell that a mile away. And it's just not a healthy way to sell, right? So the healthy way to sell is to actually create an actions focus. You can't control how much someone buys, but you can control the number of qualified prospects that you close deals with. I mean, quite frankly, I know if you put 4 or 5 qualified prospects in front of me in a day, I'm going to close 4 or 5 orders with those people, right? Because my closing ratio is consistently 80 to 90% in all areas of my business, all layers of my business. So, and I know that because I track those results. So I feel confident, and I can say, like, okay, if I'm going into this event, I want my order goal per day at this event to be 10 orders a day. It's a key event. It's usually 10 to 15 orders a day. If it's a traditional event, like a festival or an outdoor event, it's 5 to 10 orders a day, right? If it's a brand new event that I've never done before, I'm going for 5 orders, right? It's what we call the 5 to thrive focus. So 5 to thrive is a real thing. And what does that mean? That just means you want to get yourself to the point where you only need to talk to 5 qualified prospects in a day, and you know it's going to be a great day. You're so skilled that you can talk to 5 qualified prospects in a day, and you're going to close 4 or 5 orders with every 5 qualified prospects that you talk to. And your average order is good enough because you're confident enough in your critical skills that if you get 4 or 5 orders in a day, you're going to consistently sell, $400, $500, $1,000 average order, which means that how is that not a great day, right? Even if you're spending $1,000 a shift, you're selling $4 or $5 grand on average on those 5 orders, and or even just 2,500 on those 5 orders, $1,000 a shift, you're still making a 50% profit on your investment. So it just makes sense, right? 5 to thrive. Get to that point. Make that a focus. I want to get so good at so many different layers of the business or critical skill sets that, like, I could close a set with one customer. I could close a 5-piece special with another customer, a flatware chest with a Cutco owner, a small custom cookware set with somebody, and a multi-set deal or a business gift order with somebody. And bam, I just sold 5 or 6 grand for the day, right? Imagine that. How exciting do shows get when, like, that's your scenario, that's your reality, right? It's really cool actually when that happens. So make that a focus, right? Your daily focus at the booth needs to be on the number of orders that you close. I love Steven Decker because he shows up every day, writes out on a note card 10 orders, right? Actually, I think it's 12 now. He's up to 12, but it's 1. He just writes out the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And every order he gets, he just checks one off. He doesn't care. I mean, the only time you see Steven stressed out is when he does what we're all guilty of doing once in a while. Some of us more often than not, which is get focused on the CPO, like, oh, I'm not selling enough, right? And then all of a sudden he stops closing his orders or he closes less orders because, when that happens to us, we get stressed out, we focus on that, we get focused on CPO, we get commission breath, and then we start losing orders or losing opportunities, right? Because we're not doing a good job. But man, when Steven's focused on his order goal, he's just checking off every order. He's just like, all right, cool, next order, next order, next order. He doesn't care. Like, every cutting board counts, every sheath counts, and every bundle deal counts, right? It doesn't matter, and everything in between. And he gets to the end of the day, he's like, holy crap, I just had one of my best days of my career, right? It happens for all of us. So make it a goal that at least one of those orders each day is a big order. And I want to define big by 2 to 3K. If you make it a focus to close a 2 to 3K order regularly, consistently, which by the way is not hard to do with qualified prospects, especially when you're showing them family program like multiple sets, or you're showing them ultimates, or you're showing them cookware packages, or you're showing them business gifts. Like all of those things are 2K order plus, right? Get really good at those things and make it just a focus that like, hey, I just want to focus on closing a big order on a regular basis, right? If you make it a focus to do it once a day, more than likely you'll do it at least once a show. Now, I know that that flies in the face of what I just said, which is don't focus on results, right? But it's the whole idea of like, my intention is that I'm going to get a big order today. My intention is that I'm going to close 15 orders today. Now, I don't know where that big order is going to be. I don't focus on trying to create it. I focus on listening and staying so tuned in with the customer that when that opportunity presents itself, I hear it or I see it, even though they may not. And I key in on that and I show them their options so they can take advantage of it if that is an opportunity that they're capable of doing, right? So, but it's just it's an intention really that I want to create a big order every day I'm in the booth, because I know that will also pull up my averages in all other areas. So how do I do that? Well, the only way I do that is by also being disciplined in every package, every client, every time, right? So another daily focus for me when I'm at the booth is making sure I'm being consistent and I'm being disciplined about talking about every package with every client every time. Now, is it possible to do that? No, of course not. We only have so much time with customers before they glaze over and they have to go, right? Or before we get busy, because it's like flies to a flame, right? And all of a sudden, next thing you know, like people are crowding the booth and we're suddenly busy, right? I only have so much time with every customer. So do I get through every package with every client every time? No, not every time. But do I do it more often because it's my intention? Absolutely, 100%, right? So I love the quad folds that I got from Vast Action. Thank you, Kelly and Seth, for telling us that we should create those and provide them for people. But I use that quad fold as a great way to go over with people like every package, every client, every time before they leave the booth. And as a result, it's like I'm handing my business card. And so often, more often than not, I get customers who go, oh, I didn't know you had a business gift program. I'm like, oh, do you own a business? There we go. Yeah, Jeff's showing off his quad fold. I love it. It's such a powerful tool, right? So I'll pull that puppy out and I'll be like, okay, cool. So like we're getting your knife set done today, just so you know that gets you 25% of the way to your Cutco kitchen. It's very common. People come back next year and they see other stuff. They love the knives, so they want to see what else we have. And so really quick, I just want to take a moment as a courtesy just to show you the other packages and see if there's anything we should be putting on your wish list for the future. Because if it's on your wish list and it goes on sale, I can let you know about it. Like, great, cool. And then I can take out that quad fold and literally just be like, here's our different packages. Here's our different programs. What should be on your wish list? Anything they're throwing on their wish list, then that opens the door for me to be like, well, just so you know, the more you get, the better deal we can do. So like if I bundle some things together and could get you a better deal today just for fun, would you like to see what that would look like? And they're like, just for fun, sure. You know, and it's like, okay, cool. Next thing you know, I have a bundle deal. That's a 2 or 3K order. More often than not, they go, no, that's okay. I think we're good with what we've got here, but do put these things on our wish list and let us know if they go on sale. I'm like, oh, they're great. I'd be happy to do that. And because I said it earlier, then it's their idea to tell me to do that. And so when I do it, they're not upset with me that I'm reaching out to be like, hey, you have the flatware on your wish list. You asked me to put that on there last time that we talked. And I just want to let you know it's on sale. So, you know, is now an okay time for us to talk about that? They're like, sure, thanks for calling. Thanks for keeping track of our wish list. Thanks for letting us know that it was on sale like we asked you to do. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for telling me to. Thank you for giving me permission to. Thank you for being so excited that I called you to sell you stuff, right? And actually thinking it was your idea that I do that, right? When really it was my idea because I was just kind of leading you into it. But that's great salesmanship, guys, when you're being more of a consultant than a salesperson, right? So, and then finally, last thing I'll share with you on a daily focus thing. I mean, other than like the basics, right? I'll give you a bonus. The basics are the foundation: nutrition, sleep, hydration, right? If you're not energized physically, energized emotionally, and energized, psychologically, it's really hard to do your best. And it's, for me, I increased my shift average significantly when I got really disciplined about getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night Carlton, I'm mad at you because this week I haven't gotten as much sleep as I normally do, but it's cool, dude, because I banked it. I knew coming into it, it was going to be this way. So I got lots of sleep the last week. But Carlton, I've been up till like midnight or 1 o'clock every morning talking, and then I'm up at like 7. I'm like, ah. But number 2, hydration, right? Like drinking a gallon of water a day, especially when I'm in the booth talking with people all day. It's super important. And nutrition, making sure I'm not eating crap food. I'm eating good food because food is fuel. Right? We are what we eat. And if you want to be energized emotionally, physically, and psychologically, you have to feed your body good food. You can't be eating corn dogs and fried funnel cakes all day. They're not going to help you focus and do your best with every client. So, but that last piece, right? Those were the bonus tips, the foundation of daily focus. But the bonus tip for me that like increases my averages is just have fun and be yourself. Right? Focus on the customer, focus on serving them, listen to them. Remember, we don't work on the game-winning shot at the end of the game. We work on that game-winning shot outside the game in practice. So when it's time to take it, we're way more likely to make it. So this is why it's so important to role play with other people, to listen to audios, to role play with yourself in the mirror, to record yourself and listen to yourself, right? Do these things outside of the booth so that when you get in the booth, you're already at a higher level than most people, because most people wait until they're in the booth to try that new strategy they just learned a month ago, that they learned it a month ago, they haven't reviewed their notes since, and now they're implementing it a month later, like on their first shift at the booth when they're actually there to make money. It's like, oh, hell no. I learned that thing a month ago. I'm reviewing my notes this week. I'm reviewing my notes again this weekend. I'm listening to the audio recording of that message where I learned that thing multiple times, like every day or multiple times a week between now and my next shift, so that by the time I get to my shift, I'm not even thinking about it, I'm just doing it, right? Because I don't want to practice my game-winning shot at the end of the game. I want to practice my game-winning shot in practice so that I have a way better chance of making that game-winning shot when it's time to take it. So when you do this outside of the event, it puts you in the position where you can focus instead of thinking about what you're saying and trying and practicing at the booth when you're with customers. Instead, you thought about all that stuff ahead of time. So now you got an open mind going into your shift because you're prepared, you're ready to rock. And now you can focus on being yourself, having fun, enjoying the customer, serving the customer, listening to the customer. That's why it's so important to do the practice outside the booth. And then finally, step number 3, and this will be an easy one here, a really quick one to get through, is just the reflection focus. So guys, I do this after every key event shift. I do this after every week. I do this at the end of every month. And I do this every campaign every year as well. But it's all about taking time to look back and reflect. Most people, the mistake they make is they look back and they reflect on what they feel bad about and how they didn't do well. And then they ask disempowering questions. Man, why did this weekend suck so bad? What am I doing wrong? Right? Why am I not good at this anymore? Where did I fuck it up? Right? And those are just not empowering questions. And what's interesting about the human brain is that it works on answering the questions that you ask it, even when you're not asking the question anymore. So if you ask a question, you don't answer it right away, your subconscious will literally work on that question until it finds a reason. So when we ask it negatively focused, past focused, disempowering questions, even if we don't have a good enough answer for it in the moment, our brain will sit and focus on that until it finds a reason to justify why we suck, why we're not good, why we should consider retiring, why we're so bad. And then that just negatively reinforces the stuff that we don't want to reinforce, right? So instead, I use reflection, looking back at my past results, good and bad, only for the purpose of learning from them so that I can get information that will help me in my future, right? So that's the only time I look at the past. And the only time I will focus on what's not great about the past is when I'm grabbing information to learn in the moment now what I can do better moving forward. So remember that. That's a pro tip, and that will really help your mindset. So every key event shift, at least take the time to review your stats. Don't get stuck in the results focus during the event. Just focus on the actions of closing orders with everyone you speak with, or almost everyone that you speak with at the shift. It's after the shift, after the show, that you want to go back and look at what just happened. Don't get in your head about things during the shift, and don't get in your head about things when you're doing your reflection after your shifts or after your shows. Instead, just ask yourself, What were 2 things I did great today? What were 2 things I did great this weekend? What were 2 things I rocked out this week? What were 2 things I crushed this month? Like whatever it is, identify 2 things you did great at that you're proud of. So I like to ask the question, like, what were 2 things I did great yesterday? What are 2 things I'm really proud of, right? So yesterday, for example, when I asked that question after my shift in my car before I went to dinner with the team, after tearing down, took a moment, had my reflection points while the day was fresh. And I said, you know what? I'm really proud of the fact that I went back over and talked to the people who bought like a $1,000 custom set for themselves and a homemaker for their employee. And I built more value in the idea of them actually just doing the whole set because they were getting all the big pieces from the ultimate. And I was like, you know, it's only $1,100 more and you get like $1,800 more worth of stuff if you just go ahead and do the whole big set. So I just think, you know, based on everything you've told me, you're a value shopper, like you don't really care that much about the price, you care more about like getting the best value. And eventually you're going to get these pieces anyways. Why don't we just go ahead and get the whole thing today? And they were like, you know, a couple conversations back and forth. And they were like, you know what, we're going to go ahead and do it. I think that's the right call. You're right about that. And I was really proud of myself for having the confidence to go over there and have that conversation in a way that they were comfortable with. And then that got me an extra, literally $1,500 added to an order that I already closed, right? A couple days before. So, you know, that's something I was really proud of yesterday. I was really proud that I showed cookware to everybody because I got 3 cookware set sales yesterday. Those are my 2 things, right? And then the other question I want to ask is, what is one thing I could have done better? What is one thing I could have done better? And guys, we can always find things that we could do better, things that we could improve. In fact, we are our own worst critics. It's the definition of being a high performer, right? When we perform at a really high level, we will be our own worst critic. And so it's not hard to find things we could improve. So notice what I'm saying here. What's one thing I could have done better, right? I want 2 things I did great that I can be proud of. And I want 1 thing that I could have done better. Because when I find 1 thing I could have done better, I focus on that 1 thing and that thing only. Even if 10 other things pop up in my mind, I'm like, nope, nope, nope. What's the 1 thing that'll make the biggest difference if I get better at that? And I keep that focus on 1 thing. Because I like it to be 2 things I'm doing great that I can reinforce and continue to practice, and 1 thing I can work on improving. Because then it's not overwhelming. I can improve 1 thing. Carlton can improve 1 thing. Rob, Jeff, you guys can all improve 1 thing. Shelly can improve 1 thing, right? It's when we get 10 things or 50 things or 5,000 things that we go, oh, I'm just fucking horrible, and then I quit. And that's not where we want to be, right? That's where we get overwhelming. That's where we start asking, am I broken? Do I need to retire? Guys, I've had more days where I've gone 0 for 5 on appointments than you guys have had days where you've done 5 appointments. I guarantee you that, right? So when I don't say that to brag or impress you, I just say that to let you know that we've all been through the ringer. We've all been through the shit. And every time it happens to me, no matter what, like clockwork, I ask myself at the end of the day, like, oh my God, like, is it over? Have I run my course? Like, am I done? Should I retire? Should I go out while I'm still on top? I have the same thoughts and conversations with myself that you guys have too. The difference is what I do with that conversation when I have it. Because when I hear that shit, I go, you're great. 1 day doesn't define me. And we all have bad days. This is just the universe telling me like, hey, your next big day is right around the corner, Josh. I literally have this conversation with myself. And then I go, you know what? What are 2 things I'm really proud of today? You know, I gave it my all. I didn't get upset. I didn't get frustrated. I treated every customer with class. I made sure they got world-class service no matter what, even though nobody was buying. Even that last customer at the very end where I was like, please, please, please. And they were like, no, no, no. And I was like, fuck, fuck, fuck. Right? It was like, so what? I did my best. And then what's 1 thing I could have improved on? Well, I mean, when I go 0 for 5, guys, I can definitely find things I can improve on. I worked a home and garden show last month for 10 days. I sold $40,000 plus 10 grand in ROR. So 50 grand in 10 days. Guys, I had 3 days where I sold less than $1,000. Was I frustrated? Fuck yeah, I was frustrated. Was I questioning myself? Of course I was questioning myself. I don't ever have less than $1,000 days, let alone 3 in a row, right? Did I give up? No, absolutely not. Did I let it get in my head? No, definitely not. Did I focus on my results? A little bit, like everybody does, but what did I do? I switched it into actions focus. I can't control my results. I can control how I show up. I can control how I think. I can control how I perceive things. I can control the feelings or the way I approach things. The lens, the questions we ask ourselves are the lens through which we see the world, right? And so when I say, what can I be really proud of? And what are 2 things I can be really proud of? And what's 1 thing I could improve on? That creates a really good focus that I have found for my entire career has helped me constantly be at the top of my game, even when I'm not. So write these things down. Focus on doing those things, right? When you ask these questions, actually make the notes in your notepad on your phone or in your physical, like your pen and paper, and then focus on doing those things. Do the things that you're proud of. Do the things that you did best at. And think about it. If every single day you're defining 2 things you can be proud of, 2 things you're best at, and you're focusing on consistently doing those things, you get to the point where like you just basically can't do bad. Doing bad's like something that comes once in a while, not something that comes regularly. Also, keep it simple. Guys, it doesn't have to be some big, huge, revolutionary thing, right? Remember, 2 millimeters makes all the difference. If I'm on this course right here, right, and I'm going from this corner, right, up to this corner of my screen. It's a straight path from corner to corner, yeah? If I start this corner and I just shift it 2 millimeters and then go that way, when we get to the end of the path, look how far of a difference it is, right? 2 millimeters practiced over time consistently can be a huge difference maker for you. So just remember that, right? Sometimes it's that one question that you should be asking, but you're not. And you think to yourself, what's one thing I could have improved on? Well, you know what? In all 3 of those things, they all walked away, but I didn't really know why. And I've got a rule I tell myself. I never let them go unless I know. Never let them go unless you know, right? So I always ask. There's a question I always ask. If somebody's trying to be-back me, I'm like, hey, I'm just curious before you guys go, if you don't mind me asking, like, what is it that's really holding you back right now, just so I know? And then some story comes out, right? And just by asking that one question, when I'm doing crappy with be-backs, like lots of people are be-backing me, I'm not closing on the spot, it's because I'm not asking that question. And so I need to remind myself to continue asking that question, right? So sometimes it's just that 2 millimeter shift that makes all the difference. Remember that, and just focus on those 2 millimeter shifts. Maybe it's an objection you got to get better at, because that's the one that kept people walking all day. Maybe it's building value better in something so people don't question its price. Maybe it's practicing the stall close. Maybe it's writing things down. Maybe it's asking more and telling less, right? There's lots of ways it could go, but the only real way to figure out what to improve is to pay attention. So keep notes, reflect on your days and your events, track your results, and then identify the patterns. When you track your results consistently, so think about it like this. If we're focusing on this one area of our business that this one skill set that we're trying to improve, and we show up with a daily focus, closing orders, not closing results, right? And we've got that one improvement focus, like ultimate sales, right? I'm focusing on ultimate sales, and we're pitching ultimates, we're showing ultimates, we're closing ultimates, we've got ultimates walking on us. At the end of the day, I'm asking myself, like, what am I really proud of when it came to my ultimate sales? Well, I'm proud of this thing and this thing, these 2 things, but I also could have done better at this thing. And then we're paying attention to that, and we're doing that every shift, every show, every week, every month, and we're doing that for an entire freaking year. You guys are going to learn so much stuff about yourselves. You're going to identify patterns where after 3 months of doing this, you're going to go, holy crap, like I'm selling more ultimates and I'm better at it because I've been practicing it. But this one thing keeps popping up as the thing I could improve on. I need to go find somebody now that's better at that than me, or I need to go back and then re-engage with all the resources that can help me. And I need to start working on those things, because that one thing will be the 2 millimeter shift I need that'll get me even more ultimate sales, right? You see how this all builds into itself, how it all adds up, right? On the back end, you start spitting out way better learning for yourself, way more clarity, way more identification of like your patterns that you need to improve on. And they're not just things people are telling you it could be, maybe, or telling you, like, you don't have people telling you what to do. Instead, you're looking inside yourself and defining based on you what's most important for you to be doing right now. And then you're going to your mentor, or you're going to your coach, and you're saying, hey, I notice, since I've been working on this for a while now, that this thing keeps popping up for me, and I keep running, like it keeps being a sticking point for me. Do you have any advice on that? Or do you know anybody who's really great at that? By the way, I always ask my mentors first, hey, how do you do at that? And they go, wow, that's an objection that throws me for a loop as well. I'm not getting advice from them about it then, right? If they have the same challenge I have, I'm not asking for their advice. I'm asking them a different question. Hey, so I'm just curious, who do you know that's really good at that? And they go, that's a great question. I've worked with so-and-so and they do really great. Okay, great. I'm going to go talk to them. And then I go talk to that person and I get their advice on that, right? So, but it's through identifying the patterns that you're able to actually, it's by reflecting on your results and identifying the things you're proud of and the things you could improve on, that you're able to identify those patterns. And once you identify those patterns, you're then empowered with what you need to actually do something about it. So from there, simply find the best resources, engage with them. Not all of them, but the best of them. The best ones that you resonate with the most. Engage with those ones over and over and over again. And guys, you're off to the races when it comes to increasing your shift average. So that's what I got for you. I appreciate the time today.